what you say. Want to pull up your Ustream page?
Okay. Yeah, I just opened up the chat so that I didn't have too much.
Yeah, I just want to
pulling on the.
I just want to check how it sounds over the broadcast.
So you want me to play the Ustream through the board?
Not through the board. Just check the level, just so we can hear. Make sure that it sounds okay. Here's what I want: audio inspector.
Somehow I think he has a T-shirt that says that, and he wears it to the beach. Audio inspector. That's how he picks up chicks.
Gets all the ladies.
Hey, baby, I'm an audio inspector. All right. Okay, I can see that we're live.
Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Oh, now it's gonna play.
It's the same thing in IT. People call, it's broke. I walk up, it's working.
Why is it making me watch a video?
It's an ad.
Well, I know it's a
pre-roll ad.
Really? Really? Thank you, Captain Obvious. Jesus. All right.
Hey, they have to find a way to pay me the big bucks somehow.
Yeah, but I thought I had the. Subscribing allowed me no ads.
You pay your.
I think I'm paying like $3.99 or some basic.
Are you logged in?
Yeah. See, shows me right here.
Yeah, you should have seen it.
That's why I'm saying I'm a little surprised. Hey, wait a minute! I only had 379 total views, dude. You got to promote me more. You got to find a way to get me on the Ustream front page.
I can't get my own stuff on the Ustream front page.
Okay, how do I? Come on.
It'll come up any second.
Sure it will. But I don't have the audio here. Why is the audio not coming up? Here we go.
Here we go.
There we go.
Test, 1, 2, 3. Ustream front page.
Okay, how do I? Come on.
It'll come up any second.
Sure it will. But I don't have the audio here. Why is the audio not coming up?
You think the level's good? Here we go.
There we go. Well, you hear the popping?
1, 2, 3. Yeah, I don't know. Is that from the computer or is that? I don't think that's going on air. I'm not seeing that on my audio.
You're not hearing the popping?
I'm not seeing a representation of that on my end. I don't think that's.
All right, I'm gonna mute my mic.
Okay. I don't think that's going on air. I'm not seeing that on my audio.
You're not hearing the popping?
I'm not seeing a representation of that on my end. I don't think that's.
All right, I'm gonna mute my mic.
Okay. I don't think that's going on air. I'm not seeing that on.
It is called the right angle turn. Let me explain what the right angle turn is. The right angle turn coming out of a parking lot is the turn that is made when the person
Available on demand every day. Or you're going to do something that involves that change. You're going to check your email. You're going to look at TV.
No, we are.
What you talking about, Willis?
We are parents when we like something a certain way. We don't like it to change.
I have had DirecTV for.
Do something that involves that change. You're going to check your email. You're going to look at TV.
No, we are.
What you talking about, Willis?
We are parents when we like something a certain way. We don't like it to change.
I have had DirecTV for.
Do something that involves that change. You're going to check your email. You're going to look at TV.
No, we are.
What you talking about, Willis?
We are parents when we like something a certain way. We don't like it to change.
I have had DirecTV for.
Do something that involves that change. You're going to check your email. You're going to look at TV.
No, we are.
What you talking about, Willis?
We are parents when we like something a certain way. We don't like it to change.
I have had DirecTV.
following program is brought to you by More Broadcasting. For more information, visit us at morebroadcasting.com.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for O'MearaCast featuring Marcus Serta. Without further ado, let's bring him in here. America's favorite P1 listener, Mr. Marcus Serta.
Live from the Green Mountain Studios in Vermont, or my living room, whichever you prefer. This is O'MearaCast, and what a week it's been of across More Broadcasting. TMOS has been getting ready for Mike to return. He'll be back on Monday. Mike was out of studio on Friday. It's Mickey had a short week because Mickey caught the flu. And on the Rob and Joe show, they were both dicks. So, a great week of More Broadcasting. I'm just kidding. Rob and Joe have been busting my balls a little bit, so, a little ball busting back. But in studio with me this week, as usual, Steve Mermelstein to my left, doing the technicals, or at least trying to, and our new man in the room is actually with us because he's a local fan of More Broadcasting, Eric Little.
Hey, how's it going?
So, we got to get to know Eric, because Eric's new to the program. Welcome, and glad you were able to come down from Georgia, Vermont.
Yes, the great snowy north of Franklin County.
Yeah, how thick is the snow up there?
It's not the snow, it's really the 3 inches of ice that's sitting on inches of snow.
Yeah, tell me about it. We'll talk about the snow blowing and Oscar a little bit later, but around here, especially the Champlain Valley, and this is what I usually tell people about the Champlain Valley, is that we don't get winters like most people, because when I say I'm in Vermont, they go, oh my God, how do you deal with the snow? Well, we don't get that much snow necessarily. We usually have a storm, and then 2 days later, because of the plows and our ability to handle snow, the roads are dry and everything is fine.
Pretty much.
Yeah, and the cold is pretty mild in the valley. You get up in the mountains, it's much colder.
Yeah.
Down south, they got a lot more snow than we do. But this year, holy crap. I think that for some reason, the North Pole itself has actually shifted somewhere in the Burlington area.
Most likely. I mean, I can't remember in my life having ever seen 20, 30 below. I get up at 4 in the morning to start my day, and seeing my phone just mock me by saying it's only 40 below. Oh, and the wind's probably at a brisk 5 miles an hour, which means it's 50 below, something like that.
Yeah. I'm from Chicago originally, and if it is, let's say it's 10 degrees outside, I go downtown Chicago, because of the blustery wind conditions, it automatically drops to a negative 50. I mean, that's just wind chill factor. Around here, that usually doesn't happen. But this week, or the last couple of weeks, every time I watch the weather reports, they're reporting on not just the temperature drops, but the wind chill factors that have been significant throughout the region. It's been a very different season, especially coming from, was it last year or was it 2 years ago now, where we had the almost summery conditions of winter?
It was 2 years ago, because I just came back from Georgia from basic training.
Yeah.
And I was ready to see snow. I'd seen sand for 2 years. I wanted to see snow. And I came back and I found a snowbank at Burlington Airport, and then it was teens to the 20s to 30s the entire time. Christmas was a muddy, gray, spectacular time, and then, that was it. There was no snow.
Right. So you are, by your haircut, and if you're watching your stream, you could tell, this is not your typical civilian. You are military grade. So which grade of military are you?
I'm currently a specialist in the U.S. Army with the National Guard here in Vermont.
I'm really sorry.
I elected to come here instead of going active. I like my state.
So how does it feel to be a ground pounder?
There's keeping in shape. I was walking around with my ruck on my back, and you'd occasionally see guys with plates drive by, Marines, Army, they'd honk. Then you'd get the Air Force guys, Navy guys drive by and look at you like you're insane, because they have no idea what it's like or why you would ever just pick up 75 pounds and walk around with it. And I realized that the Air Force and the Navy hate mails come rolling in once they find out what my name is. Not hard to find, not a big community here in Vermont.
No, absolutely not. It's very small.
But it is, when you throw 130 pounds and then realize that you're considered light infantry, it's not. The irony it's there.
Yeah. Well, speaking of irony, no, not actually irony, a play on words. You work here in Vermont at a particular camp, which I'm sure is joked about quite a bit because of its name.
Yes.
You want to share what that camp name is?
That is Camp Johnson.
How does it feel to work on Base Dick?
Well, they got the big guns right out on the front, so there's no envy. We all know just how big the guns are right there at the front gate.
Yeah. And you're not an actual infantryman. You're not a tank commander, right?
No, I do IT. I make the internet appear, basically, is what my job is. I work at a small satellite terminal, and I hit buttons and occasionally look really cool.
Nice.
And make sure that when we're overseas, you can call home or have the internet there in sight. And also we, do missions operations, computer stuff like that.
No, I get it. I didn't have one of those types of, here's your rifle, this is my gun. I didn't have one of those kind of jobs either. Being an HVAC guy in the Air Force, I wore my blues more often than I wore my fatigues.
Yeah.
That was a different time, though. I know now that guys like me would have worn their greens a hell of a lot more. Fatigues, whatever you want to call them. Depending on your grade. You're also now wearing the fancy. Speaking of fatigues, you're wearing the new fancy stuff with all the computerized fatigues.
Oh, the ACU. That pattern serves more to define where you're sitting in the brush, not where you're not. When you're in training down in Georgia, you're wearing ACUs, and even though they've been soaked in the Georgia clay, you'd still just look for that pattern to stand out.
Hey, look, my old BDUs with that big splat of brown only highlighted my curves, did not slim me down. Let me tell you, it was not an attractive look for me.
Yeah, and meanwhile, you have the Navy, which has their new digital blue and white. And I'm just wondering, I'm trying to hide. You fall in the water, don't you want to be a little bit more obvious to the guys up on the deck?
Yeah, I would think so. Well, they're when they're putting on their life preservers, those are orange at least, but you have to have that on. But everybody wants to look alike. There was a big controversy not too long ago where they were talking about the fact that there were different manufacturers for BDU uniforms for each one of the branches of service.
There is. They're all American owned. You get the big tag on there that says made by so and so. Usually, older people, veterans, something like that. But they're really manufactured by so many different people. When I came in, they completely redid the uniforms because there were 20 uniforms that you needed to have, around waiting to wear. Now it's just 3 at most, and even now they want to just completely make them all look alike, which is so much better. Give me the multicam.
Well, let's find out how you got into being a Mike O'Meara fan. So, how did you get into being a big fan of TMOS?
This goes back to July 20th, 1994, which is the first day I listened. And it actually has nothing to do with Mike. It has everything to do with Rob. My dad was born with a heart condition, so before he, thought that life would end, he wanted to take his son, me obviously, around the country to see things. Got from here over to Seattle, stopped all the sites on the way, got down to Arizona, and just before El Paso, which would have been the shot home, passed out, collapsed, was pronounced brain dead the next day.
Oh my God.
There's 9-year-old me sitting in Arizona, 3,000 miles from my parents, my parent at that time.
Oh my
and
God.
Some lucky park ranger picks me up, drives me to Las Vegas, and flies me home on her dime. Doesn't ask for any payment. And, when I get back here and I find out that, my father's passed away. So as a 9-year-old who watched that happen, I was a bit distraught. So we go back to my dad's house, and
I'm distraught just hearing the story now. Oh my God.
Well, it kind of gets better because it's an odd turn.
Okay.
Go back to my dad's house. He had a radio he used all the time when he worked at GE.
Okay.
And back when I was that age, it was all country. If it wasn't Garth Brooks, I really wasn't listening to it. I could listen to Thunder Roll 1,000 times during the day. It didn't really affect me.
Yeah.
So I wasn't big on any sort of talk. Never heard of such a thing existing. So swipe the radio, go home, set it down, and turn it on. And from where my dad lived to where my mom lived, station numbers changed. Numbers were the same, rather, but broadcast was different.
Yeah.
And back then there was 96.7, 960 AM, that old radio station, The Zone or whatever it was back then.
Yeah.
So I turn it on, and there's this awkward voice talking to a woman on the phone, asking her to cut the onions again and again and again. And it was Rob calling the hotline, and as a transvestite. So then I just stared at my radio like it was about to kill me.
So that was how long ago? Because the Zone was a Vermont station not for very long.
Oh, it wasn't even The Zone. It was 102.3 WLFE. They played country all day except from 3 until 7 they played Don and Mike.
Wow.
And that was how I got the start. And after that, I kind of lived. I didn't quite understand Don's humor because he was a few years older than me. Mike, I loved the impressions every Friday, but I just lived if they would make Rob laugh. Please, just make him laugh. Because I'd only ever heard the 5-minute breaks on radio stations where they'd speak.
Right.
And now, having been a 9-year-old who watched his father pass away, I have this 4+ hours a day to vicariously live through someone else. And it became literally, it was my day. I would run home from school when I could walk there. I would pester the bus driver to drive faster to get there. When I was in college, I was in Maine, so it was Howie Carr on in that slot, so I didn't get to hear him, and I hated it until I found out that they put him on the internet, and then I just listened all day, and that's how I discovered Oscar.
Yeah.
And Big O and Dukes, and my favorite thing, which was River or Life.
Okay.
Which was whether someone gets to live or die.
Yes.
And just the shock value of hearing someone talk about their life, and how how normal they made things sound, or made my life seem normal. And I would live for.
I don't know. The story you just told about your father, I mean, it's tragic. I mean, I'm not sure how any story I've ever heard on TMOS could possibly compare to that one.
It is a bit odd to go from my father died to I'm listening to a very, very red man with colonic issues talk to a transvestite on the phone about cutting onions in half. But I mean, I suppose for the time being that was a good switch.
So you are a Rob Mob member then, but I don't see you really vocal on the forums, in Facebook and all of that. Do you avoid those areas?
I came in late to like I was big on Facebook. I was one of the first few thousand on there. I guess the Oscar of Facebook. I had to be there. I bribed someone for their college email address so I can get on Facebook.
Wow.
And I got on there, and so I didn't know that I left, and I didn't realize that Don had left when I was gone to college. And then I came back, and Mike was still there. Then I left to go back, and I came back, and Mike and everyone had got tossed out by CBS, so I didn't know where they were. And I found them, and then I was like, never occurred to me they'd be on Facebook. Well, then I, friended them on Facebook as far as the show goes.
Right.
And I shot a friend request to everyone because this is as far as radio goes, my idols. I remember sometimes looking on the internet saying, what do these guys look like? I have to know what Don and Mike look like. And that was my big thing. And
How much disappointment was there?
It was weird. It was one of those moments where it's surreal. You see a picture of Don and Mike, and you're like, oh, well, I never understood their jokes about having their faces on real models. So I'd always thought that they were a bit more muscular, maybe more athletic, and then it's just two regular guys.
Well, I think that's when you speak about that kind of thing specifically, and I just had a number of conversations with radio guys this week. The voices sometimes in my head, the way I picture them initially, never match up to the guy that you meet.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, you're right. They end up looking like real guys versus the guys with faces with radio.
Yeah.
Faces for radio. They're real guys versus what you imagine. Like, almost if you were to hear a guy's voice with that deepness of like a Don Cornelius, right?
Mm-hmm.
You would expect this kind of tall, booming African American man being there, right? And I've met guys with those kinds of voices, and they turn out to be these little skinny white dudes. And I'm always going,
mm-hmm.
Where did I go wrong? Where did I get this predisposition? I just met a radio guy here locally this last week who I've listened to on an oldies station here for years. And I met him for the first time, and I swear, listening to him, I would have thought he would have lived in downtown Burlington, had been a city boy. But no, he looks like the mountain man. He looks like he just came down from his still to do a show. So totally blew my mind, but at the same time, put into reality and went, we're all real guys doing these shows, and that's one of the reasons why I appreciate DJs, because especially if they bring themselves into it, that realism, that ability to personalize themselves in a show, I think captures an audience and gets them to keep tuning in.
Oh, definitely. And going back to what you said about Facebook, most of my conversating with Rob does happen behind the scenes. I have to follow him. And so just recently he's opened it up, I think, so that you can comment on what he puts up if you're not friends with him.
Right.
And, I try to friend everyone else. I'm friends with Oscar on Facebook. And I communicate with, Rob and Mike behind the scenes. And I sent that letter in when we had those soldiers killed overseas during the government shutdown, and the Fisher House paid to bring them home. And I wrote a letter that was read on the air, and I have that one saved on my iPad because I've been listening for 20-plus years, and all of a sudden they read a letter on there. And I went back to look because I haven't seen stuff from Mike because I'm an avid Red Sox fan.
Yeah.
I'm a Patriots fan, which he will hate because I loathe the Giants. I'm a Bruins fan, which means I actually just don't like the Capitals, and he doesn't like the Bruins, and so on and so forth. And so I went back saying I haven't seen anything. I was celebrating with him when the Red Sox won it all this year, and I don't know what I did wrong. I think he blocked me.
Really?
And I when I had some pretty caustic things to say when he was going through his gun control issues on the show, and I remember the thing him and Don always said: if you don't like it, change the channel. And so I stopped listening for a while because I like him enough that I respect his opinion, and I'll just turn this off a little bit. So we got through that just fine. And I say we like he actually knows who I am. And I looked up and I looked at the message on Facebook now, and it says you cannot reply to this, comment chain because either the user is not on Facebook or they have blocked you. But I can still see his picture of him and Carla with the baby. So I need to figure out exactly what I did, and I can't figure it out because I think you blocked me.
Wow. So you sent a rant. I say a rant. You sent a note to him saying, "Look, man, I do not agree with this position."
It was I would comment on Facebook, like in his actual comment thread.
Oh, okay.
But any of the messages I ever sent to him were purely positive, or there's only two really.
Well, he was very sensitive during that time because there were a lot of people who were being very defensive on the other side of the line from him about their position on gun control. And I do remember that he blocked a number of people.
Yeah, it was definitely after that. I'm a very pro-gun person. It's Vermont. It's one of the 4 open carry states in the
So would
union.
you like to publicly ask him now to refriend you?
Yes. Well, not even in front of it, Mike. Could you unblock me? That's Eric Ross Little with the ERL. It should be a picture of a guy from Tron right now. I'm sorry, whatever I did. Please love me again.
Well, since you love Rob, you have no chance.
Exactly.
Well, let's talk about what happened on this week in More Broadcasting.
Perfect week.
It was a great week. Let's start with what is most relatable to us here in Vermont, and probably, let me put it this way, I think it's probably one of the most irritating things at times about TMOS for me, because when these guys decide to bitch about winter,
They don't know.
I'm always going, you have no freaking clue. Now, Mike has some good New England stories.
Yes.
But when they bitch about a couple inches, now, and Rob this week, oh my God, the kids have been out of school for a week for, 6 to 8 inches of accumulation? Please.
If you go down to Fort Hood, Texas right now, they literally got a dusting. There's probably more snow, like I said to my friends, underneath my wheel well right now than fell in Fort Hood. They got a 4-day weekend.
That is effing ridiculous.
Yes.
Well, here's Oscar at least talking about some aspect of the winter time that I can kind of agree with.
The sense of satisfaction that comes from looking behind you after 2 passes and seeing the perfect, clean sidewalk, that's something you can't get from shovel.
Now, the sidewalk rocks, right? Because you just can
it's
start
awesome.
and
It
then you
is
can go
awesome.
all the way to the other
Yeah,
end
yeah.
without a break and
Yes.
you can get it done.
How wide is the pass? 18 inches?
I would say it's about that.
Perfect.
It's
then.
about
That's
that.
perfect.
Yeah.
And he
I got
also
2 months when I come back. I've got 2 months basically, and really, let's be honest, about a month and a week that we're in real snow season up there. So I'm hoping that I get a shot.
Mike has no chance in hell of ever seeing a flick because I think that the relationship between the snowblower and Mike is the key to why no snow ever fell in the D.C. area.
He's pushed it all north.
Yeah, exactly. So as soon as he went to Florida, it opened up the opportunity for Mother Nature to swing in and dump 8 inches of snow on them.
Yeah, I would say if he wants to get his money worth, Rob and more so Oscar are handy folks. Just take the front of that snowblower off and make it a rototiller.
That would be a great idea. Now, the other thing, I agree with Oscar. There is a certain satisfaction if you own a snowblower to see that path being made. But I now live in this apartment. There's no reason for me for this 3 feet of sidewalk in front of my house to have my snowblower anymore. It's sitting in a storage unit at the moment.
Yep.
So I kind of miss it. There's a certain portion of me that misses it. But I think my sidewalk looks pretty good, and I shoveled it.
Yeah. No, my mom, I shovel for her. Got to be the good doting son. And the year that I finally said I'm going to drop $1,000 or whatever it was, $500 on this big snowblower for her driveway.
Yeah.
I went to Tractor Supply, wherever it was, and I bought it. I'm wheeling it out of the store, and my mom calls and said, "Hey, we just closed on the house." I'm like, fantastic. Great timing. I was going to wrap this and everything, so I never got to use it, and that was the year, that was 2010. And I came home one day, because I lived with her at the time before I went to basic training. The snow was up to my stomach, and I had to shovel it. And that was the crux where I was like, no, I must have a snowblower, and she moved. I have shoveled snow in 2 years, and it's fantastic.
See, I used to live out in the country and had this, the way our house sat, it sat down on a hill, so you had to walk up a staircase to get up to the driveway.
Mm-hmm.
And the driveway was long enough, and it required, because I lived in the country, on the edge of the mountains here, that I needed a snowblower. And when you would get a big 3-foot dump, I don't care. I got the 24-inch wide snowblower, which is pretty big. But when it's piled up, and especially when you get toward the street where the snowplow has decided to give you a 6-foot bank at the end of your driveway, trying to get through that is murder. But when you're all done with it, having that really clean driveway because of that snowblower, oh, that was so nice.
It feels great. It felt even better shoveling it because you're like, yes, look what I have conquered.
Yeah.
But then you look around and realize that you can't see the end of the driveway because it's still snowing.
Yeah.
And then 3 hours later, you're going to come out here and feel just as fantastic about sweeping up another 3 feet of snow.
The convenience that they've had down in the D.C. area is that they've been able to move it, because up here, it turns into ice instantly. It's been that way this season. It gets the snow gets compacted too fast, and next thing you know, we have ice on the roads. And because it's been so cold, the salting that they try to do has been somewhat ineffective. They could do it during daylight hours, and that's about it.
That's the it's that salt brine that it's going to be 1% salt, 90% dirt.
Yeah.
And having a commute, I think it's not just the snowblower. I had a good job in Montpelier. Anyone who lives around here knows that Georgian Montpelier is not the shortest trip. It's probably half the state. So I blame half of it on me. This has been the worst year to commute to and from Montpelier that I've ever experienced.
Yeah.
It's only an hour parking lot sometimes on the road.
And if it's not ice, there's sinkholes.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
And Vermont, because for us personally, it really is a commuting area. Now, because of the way the guys are set up, with Oscar in D.C., Mike in Manassas, and Rob up in Leesburg, they have to drive. They don't have really ease of public transportation to get them from point A to point B.
Yes.
Whereas if I lived in Chicago or if I lived in D.C. and worked in D.C., I'd probably just take public transportation and not deal with it. But in the state of Vermont, we have to drive everywhere.
Everywhere.
Because there isn't enough public transportation to get you anywhere.
No, and I have been to D.C. and that fun little public transportation, infrastructure nightmare they have there, and I've driven on the Beltway. And I've been there for the wind delay, the snow delay, the rain delay, and then the sun delay, because who built eastbound going into the sun and westbound going into the sunset?
Yeah.
Some great inventor there. So it's a nightmare, but I mean, I completely understand that.
Well, let's talk about something else that came up this week on Tech 411. Big news for Todd, as Compulsive made it to the front page of Google Play.
And in marketing terms, you would call this above the fold.
Yes.
You didn't have to click through. You didn't have to tap see more. Compulsive was featured right on the front page. And it was mind-blowing. I didn't know. I knew I was going to get featured, and I've been featured before, but never above the fold. I've always been buried down deep. This is the first time I've had an app on Google Play featured right there. As soon as you launch, you see my app. So the amount of visibility I've had in the last week has been insane, starting with probably, I think, the initial day it got featured, it got 150,000 downloads.
Oh, my God, jeez.
Be helpful if I turned on the mic so I was ready to go. I was thinking about something else, but the reason I wanted to play this is, again, congratulations to Todd.
Oh, definitely.
On another huge success. I mean, White Noise was his primary success, the thing that got him really going. But Compulsive is taking off, and obviously, as you heard there on day one, 150,000 downloads, but over 1 million while he's been on Google Play's front page. That is amazing. Do you play Compulsive?
I have Compulsive on all 3 devices that I can play it on.
Nice.
If you count the fact that I've been trading my phones in and giving them to my mom or back to AT&T, I've technically downloaded it 7 times.
That's fantastic.
So that I'm, maybe at 0.001% of his downloads.
Maybe you should join the Compulsive playtesting group.
I wanted to. I remember how much Carla played it and got into it, and pretty much when I got downtime at work, I pop out my my Galaxy Note 2 there, the big one, and I play that all day, and I try to beat the score and higher and higher, and it is a compulsive game. I can't stop playing it. It's probably the one game I've been playing that hard, that long, out of all the apps I have.
It drives me crazy because it's the one game that I feel like I'm not any good at. I'm a gamer I consider myself a gamer. That would be something you could put underneath my name.
Yes.
Because I've done it for so long. I've been competitive. I've gone to world championships for a variety of games, and so this game I find challenging for myself. And maybe it's just my advanced age and the arthritis in my thumbs. I don't know. But for whatever reason, this game I am compelled to play. But at the same time, it ticks me off so bad because I think I should be better at this.
Well, yeah, I mean, I hate I thought it would just keep going until you can beat the score.
Yeah.
The time. I don't like timed games, but the one thing that I like is the smallest little thing about the game that sold me on it was that when you're breaking combos in compulsive, it pauses the timer.
Yes.
And it gives you that extra 2, 3, 4 seconds that games like Candy Crush or something like that, not that I ever played it, would never give you. So you're doing combos if you're really good at the game, and then 10 seconds are gone and you suck.
Yeah, and I would agree with you. And now have you been playing with the new modes? They've got the Zen mode. They've got a new mode. I can't remember all the modes, but they've got one where you can play 30 turns, best score in 30 turns, strategic. And then they've got one where you don't play with any timer. I haven't figured out how that one works exactly because I played for a good 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And then I was like, where's the end?
I'm bored.
What am I waiting for? So for me, I kind of had to go back to the timer piece of it. But I was kind of hoping that maybe it was going to score me on a variety of different things or something because it had to. Just didn't know what I was achieving except racking up a score that would never end.
No, there are people out there who would probably play it, hit pause, close the phone down, come back, play it, hit pause, and just see the score they can get. There are other games out there I can't think of the top of my head where top score is a big deal.
Yeah.
But you can pause the game and let resources collect, or stuff you'd use to undo a mistake you made. Just build and build and build for days.
Yeah.
And then come back and make mistakes until you're out of them, pause it, and then you're building millions and millions of points.
Yeah. Steve, have you been playing?
I've been so busy lately, I haven't had it. I don't have a second for games, unfortunately.
So you're not playing any games? You don't have the game downloaded?
No.
Okay,
no,
I'm not talking to you anymore.
I'm sorry.
I don't want to talk to him anymore.
I made it for it, Todd.
What other kind of games do you like?
Are we talking any platforms or just in general?
Any platforms, and I ask because, if nothing else, if Todd does choose to listen to this, obviously one of the things that TM Soft is focusing on now is games.
Yes.
And I play strategy games, I play arcade games, I play card games, I play all kinds of things. So I'm not really a good person to talk to because I'll play just about anything.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I was a 11-year recovering addict of World of Warcraft. I played that since it was in beta, and all the way through until I enlisted, and that was
you and me both.
That's a crack addiction. That's straight to the vein right there.
Yeah.
Right now, I do first-person shooters. If I see a first-person shooter for the iPad, I'll do it. I do like puzzle games, card games. The old solitaire kind of tweaked up a bit. I like that.
Right.
So games like that, it really just kind of it's weird. When I go to a movie store, since I'm a nerd and I like anime, don't hate me for it. I literally just look at the art and say, "That's pretty. I'm gonna play that."
So you like big, round-eyed women with
huge eyebrows,
big boobs, and tiny waists.
I'm not quite that.
That's the whole reason you watch anime, is because you want to see chicks with these giant round eyes, big bosoms, with huge cleavage and tiny little waists.
Really?
With short skirts and little school socks.
Mike is never going to have me back now, ever. Not selling myself to Mike on this one. Yes, but with a plot. Gotta have the plot.
Okay, what's your favorite anime? I've got to ask.
Favorite anime, it's called Evangelion.
I know it.
Yes.
I have watched a little bit of it. I have not gotten into the series, but I'm familiar with it.
It was originally supposed to be the big one, but Akira kind of blew that out of the water. Now that everyone in Vermont has stopped listening, because I'm not talking about cars or cutting down trees. God, I'm gonna get so much hate.
Why do you think that? I think people are just going to tune out because we're talking about things that are not relatable.
We are.
So let's talk about. Well, then this is perfect.
Yes.
Because you just brought up that you're going to get all this hate mail, so you're regretting the things that you've said And this week on It's Mickey, Mickey brought up regrets.
And I started thinking about regrets.
Mm-hmm.
I've made a few. So I posted on Facebook, if you had to choose one thing you regret in life, what would it be?
Yeah.
So I'll ask you right now, I know I'm putting you on the spot, but
Right.
like, what's your biggest regret in life, you think?
My biggest regret?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't want to say that I have any because then I wouldn't be where I am today and who I am today if I walked around regretting
that's
stuff.
There has to be one thing you look back on and go, I wish I would have.
Honestly, I don't know. I don't think so.
Not starting comedy earlier.
No, because I probably wouldn't have been ready for it.
Okay, fine. Well, good for you, Wendy. No regrets. You're better than me.
I'm not saying. I mean, I like who I am. I like where I'm at. So I don't. If I regretted something, I would be like, no, I don't like that. Do that.
Our buddy Marcus from OMearaCast, not following a dream.
What was his dream?
Probably to be in radio.
Mickey got it right. That was my dream. That was my dream, and I didn't follow it when I should have, because when leaving high school, that was my intention, and I took some bad advice, kind of forced into some bad advice, because I won't pay for your college unless you do what I want you to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went down a different path, and then it just led me down a place where radio was not in my future, and so I picked it up as a part-time thing along the way. And I will say this, and it's I'll say this early. I was going to bring this up in Pet Peeves, but this week I did something that I really hate that people do, which are the vague frickin' statuses on Facebook, where they go, I think the world's going to come to an end today. Okay, what the hell does that mean?
Why?
Exactly. Right, exactly. Because it was like 4 a.m, and I could not sleep because I had a radio interview this week. I had a radio interview with a very good company here in Vermont, and if the opportunity comes through, it will be a great opportunity for me. And so, with all that being said, I could apparently at 4 a.m. when I can't sleep, I can't help myself but post vague and stupid statuses. So, anyway, that was my regret. That was my big regret over the years. Any regrets for you?
I think I got 2 regrets. Most
Yeah.
of all, it kind of fits into the same thing with college. When my dad passed away, again, he left me a sizable amount of money to go to college with. The man, what was it, could make Lincoln scream because he could squeeze a penny so hard. My grandparents been living for 30 years down in Florida off of money he saved, working at GE doing 2 wars.
Wow.
Or, Desert Storm, Desert Shield, I should say.
Yeah.
And so I kind of got that, well, since your father died and left you all this money, you should go to college.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I'll go to college. And at that point, having taken the ASVAB, having scored as high as I did, I had every recruiter in every branch except for the Coast Guard really kind of knocking on my door saying, hey, come with us.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I'm going to college. We can pay for that. No. And so I went to college, and it wasn't until I'd lost my job, lost most of my independence. I lost my work during the big crash in 2009 when the Haitian earthquake crisis happened there.
Oh yeah.
I almost said Cuban Missile Crisis, but not quite this era.
Yeah.
And so I kind of came back, and I found myself that I was 310 pounds. I was looking at a heart attack by the time I was this age now. And I had no career, no girlfriend. I was just I was engaged before this happened.
Wow.
And living with my mom. And so I lost all of the weight. I went down to 190, enlisted, and did that. And I really wish that I'd done it at 18. When I could have, reaped the benefits a bit more as far as paying. Because I paid for college and then said, I'm going to do it because I love my country. And
see, I went to college. I did a year at college and took advantage of my freedom and did some major damage to my liver.
Yes.
And then because of it, got my funding pulled. So therefore, my next option was, let's see, how long did I want to sleep in my car? Or did I want to take the recruiter up and he will get me in on the next bus?
Yep.
My son is 17 now, and I'm sure you can understand where I'm coming from when I say this. He says he wants to go into the military, and I keep telling him, then we're signing a contract for the job you're going to take.
Yes.
So that way you get the work you want, versus the way that I did it, I got what they wanted.
Yeah.
And I ended up in a job that I hated. So, all that being said, that decision to not follow through with college led me down a path that, here I am. But I do understand where Wendy is coming from when Wendy Townsend says that, look, who would I be if I didn't make some mistakes along the way? I totally get that, and I understand that. And I think that my regret is there, but at the same time, I think that the way my life has kind of come together, I'm pretty happy about that. I could very easily say I regret the fact that I got married for the first time, but that would imply the fact that my children that come after that were some sort of mistake. And I honestly love my children, but it is what it is.
Yeah, and especially in this day and age, it isn't hard to, I guess, redo what you want to do for a living.
Yeah.
I did video engineering. My first job out of college, I was a broadcast engineer for the New England Patriots. I got to go down to Foxborough and work with Belichick and Brady and the folks down there and two of the winning Super Bowl teams.
You were the one filming the lip reader for the lip reading.
I would have turned the camera off. I'm just saying.
Sure you
Not
would.
a fan of. I'm a huge fan of the Patriots. Love that team. Horrible year this year.
Now look at you. Now you're in the Army again.
Yeah, thanks to HD for cutting my job. That was a really good paying job.
Wow.
But there's I do IT now. I worked with computers my entire life, but I wanted to do video. Now I do IT. Completely turned it around. Just taking the certifications, doing it myself. So Wendy's right, and I agree with her because there's not a lot of time in life to regret things.
Yeah.
Because I'm having this whole thing where I'm about to enter my douchebag 30s. 29 myself, and looking at that, I'm going to be 30. I'm going to be 30.
Yeah.
And it's like I don't have time to regret not doing this, that, other thing, because it's happened.
You're bitching about your 30s to a 43-year-old?
Yeah,
you, pal.
Look, 40 is the new 30, or something like that.
Yeah, sure.
I was the old guy in basic training, being 26, everyone's 17.
Yep.
And
oh my God, I can imagine.
And that's why I got as much as I did out of the military, because I think going in at 26, they say recruiters lie. Recruiters don't lie. You just don't ask the right questions. And I spent 4 or 5 days, cumulative time, asking my recruiter everything I wanted to do and could do, and he said yes, and I've gotten everything out of it, plus that. Yeah. But some of these kids are walked out of high school, walked down the stage, handed a diploma to their parents, and jumped on a plane. And 6 months later, and one of those poor kids, they're in Afghanistan, and they're between someone who's innocent and the guy shooting at him, and it's just I really, not enough time to regret things when life can be that short.
Yeah, no, I understand. Steve, how about you?
My biggest regret is stuff with girls,
I hear that.
Yeah.
Like not wrapping it? What?
Yeah, not picking up on the signals and closing the deal and hearing later on that.
Why do I have a feeling that happened recently?
It happens to me all the time.
Hold on. I know you, and I can see you.
Yeah.
I find it hard to believe it happens all the time.
It happens often. It happens
really?
more frequently than I.
When was the last time?
About a month ago.
How hot was she? Scale of 1 to 10.
An 8.
An 8.
An 8.
Okay, so an 8 was talking to you in some sort of manner that you did not pick up on, that you could have actually sealed the deal.
Mm-hmm. And I just didn't get it.
DA.
I'm in the reverse situation. There's a person, she's one of my regrets, who just left the state for New Hampshire, and I was like, well, girls don't do this with their friends. And it wasn't anything explicit, but I was just like, you're telling me things. And then like, well, you can't. No, now you're not. Well, now you are. Like, you don't? Yes, no, okay. And then she left, and I was like, oh. And then the more I've talked to her since then, I'm like, maybe I should have said something. So I did, and I'm waiting for a response.
But if she's only in New Hampshire, that's not too far.
She is not that far away. Just 2 hours away.
That's absolutely doable. This is coming from a guy who did a long-distance relationship for 2 years with a woman in Chicago from Vermont, which is not a, trying to catch a flight is difficult.
Yeah.
It's expensive, and most of our relationship was via, Skype or whatever tool we were using at the time. Yahoo. Yeah, and but we made it work, and now she's here, and she regrets that. So let's take a break, and when we come back, I've got more things to talk about, especially a really funny clip where Mike talks about addictions when we get back right here on OMearaCast.
Hey, Joe, what is your favorite episode ever of the OMearaCast?
Well, I've only ever heard one.
Oh, the episode we were on?
We were on for like the first 3 minutes. I didn't listen to that part of it.
No, I did not listen to that either, but I'm sure it was great.
From what I hear, it's pretty good.
Better than it's Mickey.
Catch the Rob and Joe Show live every Monday night at 7:30. Just go to live.robandjoeshow.com. You can also stream or download wherever you subscribe to your favorite podcasts. Visit robandjoe.com for all the ways to listen.
Brace yourselves for big news.
Nothing faster. It's the big job cleaners.
OMearaCast.
Welcome back, and this week on TMOS, Mike said something that I thought was profound, but then at the same time I went, it takes one to know one.
No, here's the thing. I think that the underlying reasons for hoarders or people with any kind of addiction, there's some psychological issues there. This is, I don't like to overuse the word disease, but the fact is, I do believe, and I've talked to people that are in this business, the power of addiction is incredibly strong.
Of course.
And if you are surrounded, when this lady has gotten to a size where her only contact and her only individual that she is dealing with on a daily basis is her husband, and her husband continues to feed her, and he continues to feed her because A, he may be just the enabling type, but B, I don't think he's got a tremendous knowledge of nutrition and the right things to eat. He talks at one point about the fact that they're trying to avoid eating fast food, so he deep fries wontons for her.
Yeah.
In their little apartment next to the hospital.
This is the My 600-Pound Life show that apparently he's now addicted to watching. But it's always funny to me when Mike talks about addiction.
Yeah.
It's not for an alcoholic. It's not for a person to tell another person they're an alcoholic. If you were to be in the program, they would tell you that. It's for that person to come to that realization. Admit the fact that you're an alcoholic and that you're powerless to do anything for it. So it made me laugh because there's that portion of me, and they talked about it again on the show, where when you talk about Mike involved in food, gambling, drinking, just about anything, Mike takes it to that extra level.
Yes.
He goes a little bit further. He would be that guy where you'd say, look, I need a teaspoon of salt, and he'd put in a pound because he can't help himself. He wants to go further.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I've always gotten from listening to the Mike O'Meara show. The guy can't go out and have 2 beers. He ends up with 10 beers, and he's got to close the bar.
Yeah, and that's I guess where him and Oscar are similar but opposite. Yeah. Oscar goes, balls to the wall, and he tends to improve himself. Mike, I just feel like, again, trying to have me unblocked on Facebook, and he's not going to do it. Seems like at every chance you get, he's trying to spend all of his money and then kill his liver and die.
Yeah, we hear, how many times do we hear about money, and then they go to CES, he's gambling every day, but we're moving the show to Florida, and we're selling the house. And I'm like, there's a certain portion of my brain that's like trying to wrap my head around this whole thing and just imagining what the ledger looks like for his financial situation.
I didn't realize how much he made back when it was the Don Mike show until I started listening to Don.
More zeros than we've had.
Yeah, and so Don because Don doesn't have a filter as far as what happened behind the scenes, telling about what was happening when he was out in Sacramento. And just he let off about what his net worth was and how it was, a fraction of what he used to make when they were back in New York and D.C. and back and forth. And I thought radio was big. I didn't think you could make that much money in radio to sit there and literally talk into a microphone because I'm naive to the...
Let's put it this way. Okay, so you have to be in the top... Radio, you have to be in the top 0.5% in order to make the kind of money that they made. Because you can't make that anymore. I mean, even now, Howard Stern isn't making the money that he made when he made the switch over to satellite. He's had to renegotiate. There have been a lot of changes in radio. I know people in radio here locally who have been in the radio game for 40-plus years who have not broken the 40,000 mark. Small market radio. And these are guys who I think have talent. They just love Vermont and love the area
Yeah.
and have, because there's a thing about having prestige and being famous in a local area versus national fame.
Mm-hmm.
Don and Mike, I can travel just about anywhere and talk about the Don and Mike show, and people go, I remember that show.
Especially here. It was big in the state.
Correct. But talk about a guy, and I'm going to bring up a name that only the three of us know, Tom Messner.
Yes.
Weatherman, local Channel 5. If you were to see him on the street, that's a famous guy. But he's only famous here. Nobody cares about him outside the Brownsville-Plattsburgh region. But here locally, he is the number one weather guy because he's the most famous weather guy here locally.
Oh, yeah. It's, I completely agree as far as, with Don and Mike going out there. I didn't realize that until I can go to Maine, and people are like, oh, yeah, I know Don and Mike.
Yeah.
And then you can go, when I lived in Florida, oh, yeah, I used to Don and Mike all the time. Go to, Quebec, because we are pretty much being taken over by them. That they've heard about him. Out in Seattle, they've heard about Don and Mike. True. I mean, I lived next door to Stephen King when I went to college.
Really?
And it was someone you could walk by, and you're like, oh, I'd be like, hello, Mr. King. He's like, call me Steve. Okay, Steve. You only write some of the best books out there. It'd be like if I met Michael Crichton before he passed away.
Yeah. It's one of those things, and I've had the fortune, and Steve's had the fortune now, of, have you met the guys face to face?
No, I have not. And like every time I had lined up for tickets to the show at the State Theater the second time.
Okay.
And shocker, the military said, no, we're going to have drill that weekend.
Oh.
So I couldn't go. And then there was the Christmas party, and I was like, and I don't know if you were bringing folks down, but every time I see you say we're taking a van down to see the guys, I'm like, can we go? And it's always when I can.
We had plenty of room in the last van we could have taken you with, right, Steve?
Oh, sure.
It would have been great.
Well, at least he's a small guy.
That's true.
Yes.
That's true.
I can fit into most. I'm not pony small, but I can fit into most third of a seat.
Well, so was Kevin. That was an advantage for Kevin too. But they're probably going to be back in Maine this summer. So hopefully, if nothing else, maybe we can carpool again.
I'll
and
definitely
carpool to
go
go see the boys. If they go to Binga's or wherever they decide to go in Portland, Maine, that'd be fantastic. But what I was getting at is meeting them face to face, because you related that story about Stephen King. It's so funny because I wouldn't say Mr. Spiewak. I wouldn't say Mr. O'Meara. They don't, when you meet them, even though that was my first kind of natural instinct when I was first around them, but they make it really easy very quickly to go, that's Mike, that's Rob, that's Oscar, and hi, how are you? Let's talk about life.
Yeah, and I would be scared because part of me is still stuck in the radio days where they're like, don't talk to us. And, how they were with the people who called from Sacramento on the radio, and I never wanted to be that bad caller doing a great job at, making Mike like me now. And so I would just be, I'd be too afraid that I would either be very quiet and just stare at them awkwardly because I'm a huge fan, or then I would act like they're Elvis, and I was a teenage girl who saw him for the first time and started throwing parts of her clothing at him.
Well, speaking of how human these boys can be, Friday.
Oh my God! Please
Okay.
tell me we're going to talk about what I think we are.
Oh, Friday show was.
I almost drove off the road.
Well, let's put it this way. Now, are you thinking bonus show, or are you thinking the actual Friday show?
Well, I didn't hear the bonus show until later that night. I listened to the show on the drive home.
So the Friday show. Here's what struck me first. Was the fact that Mike was not in studio, so it was Rob and Oscar. But Oscar, I thought, was still on a 3-day bender when I heard this.
Yes.
Now, you came sort of staggering in.
Yes.
You're not cleanly shaven.
No.
Your hair has looked better.
Didn't do my hair this morning.
Didn't do your hair.
Usually it takes me about 2 minutes.
What are you on?
Okay, so this is the situation, people. And, hey, listen. So,
and whatever it is, you're still on it. You're flying high.
I'm flying on 5-hour energy right now. 2 of them. So that's 10 hours coming right at you.
Cool. You know what?
Like a blowtorch.
Can we put a microphone by your chest so we can actually hear when your heart explodes during the audio vault?
It's going to explode.
It will.
That moment right there, and it lingered longer, but it was, Oscar was very apparent to me, at least at first, that Oscar had arrived through, this was the image in my head. Oscar, walk of shame, still drunk off his ass.
Pretty much. I would think it's Oscar, getting comped at the Hard Rock, walking off the floor, Oscar.
Which then we find out later had nothing to do with drinking. It had a lot to do with his sleeping habits.
Mm-hmm.
But, oh my God, what a setup for a show. And Rob is always on. He's always very funny. But Oscar, in this state of mind, on his 10 hours of energy, was also radio gold. So I think Friday's show, and I will say, and it's been said before, when Mike is not there, some people have the feeling the show comes down a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Mike is key to the show, and I totally understand that. This show, with Mike, out of all the shows that have been done with Mike not in the room, the best one ever.
By far, and the highest tempo. I mean, without Mike, usually it's pretty high tempo.
Yeah.
And without Mike there, it got faster, and it was kind of like going and watching a YouTube video of a show you've watched in the past. The farther that Oscar got down his Ambien addiction, and you just knew what he was coming to eventually when he was out of pills. Like, he's not going to say it, and you know it's going to happen, and he said it.
I couldn't believe the level of detail and information they were getting into as Oscar was talking about his sleep.
For keeping it off the radio.
Yeah, and let me play this clip. This is Oscar talking about some of his sleep aids.
And I said, well, what's the proper dose? It says take one sleep aid. And I said, give me 4.
Oh,
so
no.
she said, are you trying to kill yourself? And I said, no, but if that happens, God bless everybody.
Yeah, exactly. That's another solution.
You know what? Everybody wins.
Yeah, the takeaway is that we finally fixed it.
Mind you, I am in a happy place in my life. I just can't sleep very well. And when you can't sleep very well, you're miserable.
Well, you came staggering in
That's
today.
why I took 3 sleep aids, because I said, okay, 4 may be too much. 3 was too much, because when I woke up today, it was like breaking through a brick wall.
Yeah, you texted me, you said, and this is how I read it. It's not like it was a voice text, but I read it in this way. It said, oh, I'm going to be really late today.
Yeah, I felt horrible.
Well, you look good.
I commiserate with Oscar because I have not been sleeping well for months. Mm-hmm. Most of it is the same thing. It's stress related. It's been maddening. I'll tell you right now, I am doing the show on the adrenaline that comes from doing the show and the beer that I'm consuming while I'm doing the show. Because I honestly have yet to find, and I keep going back to the doctor to kind of rework. I don't do what Oscar does. Oscar self-medicates and self-diagnoses.
I don't think you'd be here if you did what Oscar did.
No. How does this man continue to look at a label and go, I take 1, so therefore 4 must be fine. 4 will be better, so I'll take 4 and survive. What the hell is this guy thinking? This is a guy, okay, this is the difference between, and you mentioned it before, the opposites of Mike and Oscar.
Yes.
Yes, they will take things to an extreme. And I can see even where Mike might have that similar thought process. But what Mike will go through is, I'm 53.
Yes.
I can't do this. Oscar is going, I'm 23.
Yes.
Even though he's not.
Yes, Oscar needs to take a tip from me, since he's keeping it fit, Oscar. Currently, that as a man who has sweat off probably more than Oscar weighs, I don't know, I've sweat off about 130 pounds to get to where I was. Things change.
Yeah.
It's colder because you're not lacking the insulation. Alcohol gets to you quicker. And also, you don't need to take 4 sleep aids to sleep if you weigh just maybe 10 pounds more than Pony.
Well, part of the problem may be, also, he's been doing this for so long. It's just like with alcohol, I know that if I go out drinking with if I go drinking out with people, depending on how often they drink alcohol, will probably also vary on how much they can consume without feeling buzzed. I can usually consume more than most and still remain normal because I regularly consume alcohol.
Yes.
That is one of my problems, one of my addictions. And but I do it all for the flavor. It's all about taste.
All about the taste.
I love it. As I cuddle
your
with
Russian
my
beer.
My Russian beer. My .ru beer. But I just look, and let me take this back to another conversation that happened on this week's show. If you listen to the bonus show, it is one of the best bonus shows I've probably heard in a very long time. And one of the things that got brought up, and I don't have a clip of it, and I'll play a clip from the bonus show in a little bit, but what came up from Rob was actually a complaint about Pony and the fact that Pony smokes.
Mm-hmm.
And not because Pony is doing a nasty habit and he smells bad or anything like that, but because Rob wants him to live longer. He wants him to be healthier. And I think if there's anything that I can express right now about this, Oscar, dude, see a freaking doctor. Don't call, and I understand you're in a family of doctors. Go see a doctor and have them diagnose you and work with you and take a sleep study. Do what you have to do. Go see a psychologist, whatever it takes, man, and get yourself back on track, because we don't want your heart to burst. We don't want to lose you, because I think that right now the key to the Mike O'Meara show is these three guys.
Oh, definitely.
And believe me, I believe in the talent of one Mike O'Meara, one Rob Spiewak, and one Oscar Santana. But the three of them combined, it's the freaking Avengers, baby.
It really is.
You know, this is the superpower, and we don't want to lose them in that process.
No, this has been the best combination, and Pony's a great kind of pinch hitter. So Mike, Rob, Oscar will talk, and then
when you
Pony,
just need to bust on somebody's balls and you haven't been able to do it for the last 10 minutes.
And there's Pony with his sugar gliders and his horrent smoking problem, and frankly, if they want Pony to gain weight, cutting out the 12-pack a day, addiction will probably do that for him.
The funny thing is that I have to go back and listen to the interview that I did with Pony, but it was my understanding that Pony really wasn't smoking or smoking that much. But in this last bonus show, it seems to allude that he is smoking an S-load of cigarettes a day.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if his necessity for smoking has picked up and increased, or what's going on. But I'm going to go back and listen to that interview, because I swear that he said he wasn't really smoking. It was really kind of a joke.
And it could be an offset of Vegas. Like a lot of my friends who tried to quit smoking, I said the biggest crutch or issue was they go to a bar where it was beer in the right hand, cigarette in the left.
Yeah.
And you go to a bar, you smoke. You go hang out with friends, you smoke. It should happen. It's a social norm for you at this point.
Yeah.
And not that they were, he had a great time in Vegas. They were so kind to him. He never was late. Yeah. Never messed up. So it's stress too.
I get it, because I am a occasional social cigar smoker. I like the occasional sitting down, relaxing with a scotch and a cigar, chilling out, having conversation with some guys. But I don't do it but a handful of times a year. Now, I'm hoping, this is funny too, because this came up on TMOS. So I had the interview with Mickey,
mm-hmm.
and I had a conversation with him, and he's like, dude, I'm going to send you some vaping stuff, man. I'm going to get you all hooked up. Yeah, by the way, I haven't seen anything.
He did the same thing to Mike.
I love the man. I think Mickey is great. I love talking to him. I think that we relate on so many levels outside of the Bigfoot thing. That I listen to It's Mickey, but yeah, I'm like Mike. I'm like, yeah, I've talked to him a number of times. The stuff hasn't shown up. I'd love to try it, though. I'd really like to try it.
He just strikes me as because I love the show. I love the fact that he can bring up Bigfoot, and then in the same time pick on Wendy about women's suffrage and trying to end it.
Yeah.
The show I just listened to because Wendy was out and he was sick was about ancient aliens. I love that he can just bring that up randomly, but he just strikes me as someone whose head is going 1,000 miles a minute. And he just gets lost in what he's doing, and there's the next thing and the next thing.
It's one of the things that I really like about a show is that it can go on so many different tangents. It doesn't necessarily follow one stream of thought. And I've said this before. I think there are times when it feels like it's an interview of Wendy Townsend.
Pretty much.
And Wendy is great. Now, there are moments where Wendy is not, and I have a clip of this, where Wendy is not the best storyteller. But Wendy is a great, I think, offset. There's a certain thing about it. She plays along and goes along those lines, but I don't think she's like, I'm into Bigfoot. I'm gonna chase Bigfoot around. Where Mickey is,
yes.
But she's kind of okay. It's all right that you like that stuff, and so she kind of pats him on the back. It's like, hey, that's cool. Whatever you're into.
Which is it's funny with her because you get she's very laid back and straightforward with the delivery. She's not kind of boisterous like Mickey is, and then you hear about the interrupting the Channel 5 interview, and then the short skirt snow angels on the barroom floor.
Oh my God! Wouldn't that have been a sight to see?
I'm not gonna say yes or no.
She has given me some imagery that has been very wonderful.
I think the show I'm up to right now, she says she's got to listen more.
Yeah.
So if she wants to know the reason that I actually got Twitter was to go see exactly who this person was that was doing this.
Well, I hope you're enjoying Twitter because honestly, it's where I have the most fun these days.
I can't keep up.
Communicating between Rob and Joe and Wendy Stars and It's Mickey and all the other fans. And at the same time, I'll say this. I'll be honest. From a marketing standpoint, it's the best way to introduce these shows, my show, to different conversations because I can slide it in there. In Facebook, you can't do that.
Yeah,
It doesn't work the same.
Facebook's changed a lot. Beforehand, it was whoever it was first come first serve.
Right.
Your friends on Facebook, you post something, you see it, it gets buried in all the Candy Crush invites and Farmville stuff. And now they've changed it around so that the stuff that posts on your wall is by people who Facebook thinks you most align with. And in this day and age, especially with me, because I'm politically active and the only conservative Republican in Vermont, I make the state slightly purple election year. That's me.
Nice.
My stuff is really kind of army and politics based. So a lot of my friends get buried in the dust. So if I'm trying to advertise, because I do have a photo site that I like to put my workout on, no one sees it. Because the way Facebook does its advertisement is just horrid, and Twitter is just, it's there, you see it, the next person posts, and the next person posts.
I get it, because if anybody watches the Facebook post for OMearaCast, they'll notice that I put a bunch of links in there, and I'm sure that if you read my posts, there are some people that go, yeah, I know it's the Mike O'Meara Show. You don't have to put it there. But the funny thing is that if I don't put the Mike O'Meara Show in there so that it links in that post, then it doesn't appear more often to the people who like the Mike O'Meara Show.
Yes.
It will only appear to those people who frequent OMearaCast. And honestly, I do want to spread the word that OMearaCast is here. I do want more people to listen to my show because I want more people like you, Eric, Steve, anybody who wants to geek out about more broadcasting, any show on more broadcasting, to be on the show and to participate in just some fun back and forth. This past week, oh my God, I wish I could remember the name of it. I wish I could remember exactly what I said. But there was the one show. Oh, I know. News you may not need.
Yes.
This week, news you may not need. Girl is having sex with boy on bus.
Stops and punches him.
And then punches him in the nads after she gets hers. I had to post it. Now, I know most people who listen to the Mike O'Meara Show got that it was from the Mike O'Meara Show and all that, but I had to put in those extra links in order to reach out to more audiences. But oh my God, I mean, but as just a listener, I wanted to geek out with all of my other geeky TMOS fans because this was news I did not need. I did not need to know that girls were likely to punch me in the nads for helping them out on the bus.
And it does feel better to kind of to share that. There was, I think it was this week, or it might have been last week, maybe it was this week, where they mentioned that it was, something happened in Mobile, Alabama, and they automatically, the first thing I thought in my head was Scooter from Mobile. And they said it, and I laughed, and I was probably one of 2.5 people in the state of Vermont who would have laughed at that. And it felt great to have that connection, which is why I've always wanted to, hang out, meet them, especially go to the Christmas party, which sounded hilarious as Oscar tried to burn the soda stream. And it feels good to geek out just about that, and having followed it for, 20, this is year 21, not to make Mike feel older. Please,
let's take it back to regrets. I regret not going to this year's Christmas party because of the fact that now the boys are going to be broken up in different places. I don't know if there's going to be another Christmas party again.
They have to. That's the only thing I don't like, is them being in different parts of the world at this point. And, Rob being in his basement, Oscar being in 7 different locations, because that's what Oscar does, and then Mike being down in, Podville.
Yeah. I think that, it'll be interesting to see what happens, but I hope there's another Christmas party. I am going to do my very best. I'm working it out. Let's hope that these things that I've worked on, these interviews that I've gone on this week, come through, because if they do, it'll give me more opportunities to really participate in those events, and maybe I could take you along. And
oh yeah,
Steve, you'll come, right?
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for participating. Let's take another break. When we get back, I've got more stuff. I mean, Jesus, having all these shows, I'm fearful of when Tony Perkins adds his show to the lineup.
I
already have so much material to work with.
I did the math after you invited me to this, and I was like, there's 5 shows or 4 shows, and I have an hour drive to and from work, so I've got 20 hours of dedicated time, and 5 shows from Mickey, 5 shows from Don, from Mike, and then I gotta throw those guys out, and then I gotta put these guys in. Now there's Rob and Joe, and I'm out of time. I have no time to keep up.
See, the thing, I don't expect you to do that. I want you. You can be focused on the show that you love. I understand that not everybody's going to love every show like I love every show, but it is. There's 6 hours. There's 7, 8 hours of TMOS in a week.
Mm-hmm.
There is 5 hours of Mickey every week. There's the Rob and Joe show. The Tony Perkins is coming up. Tech 4-in-1.
Mm-hmm.
I've got plenty of material. And then along with that, because you've got Oscar so integral in this, I'm also following Big O and Dukes and what's going on with Dukes. So Beer and Pig, because I'm a big foodie and I love beer. So I'm following all these. Yeah, my week is completely filled with podcasts.
They have to put out a full day of podcasts in a week. Just one day. I really think it's about 24 hours of podcasting that they put out.
I think O'MearaCast should just become like a daily thing. We should just do like a daily summary. It'd be like a half an hour. It's a daily summary of the shows for today.
After this week and the amount of stuff that came out, I don't think you have any choice.
We'll see. Evolution is always possible. But let's take a break. When we get back, I got more from the Mike O'Meara Show, Robin Show, and a clip from Mickey when we return right here on OMearaCast.
Do you love your iPhone?
Do you love your iPad?
Do you love your Android?
Do you love your Nexus 7?
Did you play Atari?
Did you program the TRS-80?
Do you love technology?
We all do. And more importantly, do you love entertainment?
Yes. And if you do all those and above, or whatever I'm trying to say, you should listen to Tech 411.
That's right, Tech 411 show with Oscar Santana and
Todd Moore.
Bring it.
Let's try it.
More Broadcasting. For more information, visit us at morebroadcasting.com.
Welcome back to OMearaCast. I'm here with Eric Little.
How's it going? Sorry about that.
Don't pull a Steve on me.
No, I just pulled a Steve. Literally just locked up. I was gone. I was over there for a second.
That's all right. And then, of course, Steve Mermelstein in studio with me.
Hi.
who apparently is very sleepy today. So
I am really sorry. I am literally
participation.
falling asleep here, and it's nothing to do with you guys or what you're talking about. It's just I am
is
very
the video
overtired.
Stream working?
It is.
Is the audio sound okay?
That I don't know. I'm not getting an answer to that question.
So hopefully we'll be able to put out a video stream this week that we can put out on YouTube. Hopefully, and you can follow that. Follow that information on Facebook this week. But anyway, thanks, Steve, for showing up, regardless of whether or not you're napping in my couch or not.
I'm very sorry.
If you're watching the stream, you can actually watch him nap. Let's listen to a piece of the bonus show, because this week on the bonus show, the boys, again, this was one of the best bonus shows I've ever heard.
Definitely.
And again, this was a show about gripes. Now, it didn't start that way. It was the MF and Dots. And the MF and Dots, I said this on Facebook, and I'll say it again. I literally paused the show 3 times because as I'm listening to Rob do the MF and Dots, I'm laughing so hard that I can't actually hear it. So I have to pause it, relax again, play it. I laugh hard. I got to pause it. It was so frickin' funny.
It was 4 playthroughs before I could allow the show to continue.
Yeah.
Because I remember the story behind MF and Dots and where his drunken stupor that came from. And Rob Drunk is always productive.
And the funny thing is that it just, again, it comes from that whole RJ driving thing and learning a new aspect of who RJ was at the time. Because our instinct, and you were talking about RJ earlier, what we got from RJ on the show was usually a guy who had difficulty talking on the mic. From my impression from talking to RJ, it sounded like he was just a little intimidated from Mike being on the mic.
Yes.
but he was also just kind of there and doing his thing, not really always ready to say or answer a question that was being thrown at him at the time.
Yeah, I had an RJ moment about a minute ago.
Exactly.
Where you looked at me and I just... oh, yeah.
But at the same time, so you get this one piece of his personality on the show, and then you find out during the Iowa road trip that, oh, there's this whole other side of RJ where it's MF in this, it's MF in that. You know, it's that whole thing. And Rob does it better than anybody. I'm sorry, Mike. He does the best. He does the best RJ ever. And doing the MF and dots was funny. I was laughing my ass off. But then they started to talk about gripes. And when these guys bitch and complain, it's pretty good stuff.
It is called the right angle turn. Let me explain what the right angle turn is. The right angle turn coming out of a parking lot is the turn that is made when the person goes so far out and cuts the wheel so hard that it appears that he is coming into your f***ing lane.
Okay.
And it's usually done at a high rate of speed. And it's usually done because the person is either distracted or he doesn't know how to steer his car, so he shoots straight out and then cuts it at a right angle, and usually with two wheels coming over the line at a high rate of speed. And anytime you're in that left lane and you're approaching that, it looks like you're going to be hit, but he knows he's staying in the right lane. He just can't manage the vehicle properly, and it kills me.
This is a technique that Steve pulls all the time.
I do not. I don't do that.
Speaking of driving specifically, here in Vermont, there's a couple of things specific, I think, to Vermont drivers that really irritate the F out of me. Eric, tell me when you're on the road, man, you know it's going to happen to you. What really pisses you off about Vermont drivers?
Oh, God, there can be so many things. The one I hate the most, I kind of see it everywhere, but I really see it here, is I'm going to turn right. So I'm going to whip the wheel left and really gain some speed making that sharp right-hand corner.
So you're kind of talking about what Mike's talking about.
Yeah.
In the same regard, because they cut the corner in such a way that they take it far too wide.
Yes.
And they come into a lane that they should not. My problem with Vermont drivers is that they don't know how to manage lights. So you end up with these MFers.
You really beat me to it. That was the one I didn't pick.
These MFers who end up stopping because they get caught by the red light in the middle of an intersection. And now I am perpendicular to some a-hole in the intersection, and there's no way to get around. I am stuck until somehow that guy advances, and they never get it. Now, one of the other things about Vermont drivers is that they don't honk horns.
Ever.
So they will sit there forever in total silence, not acknowledging to this, total jerk-off that he has blocked the lane, he has blocked the road, he is being an a-hole. I mean, it's getting infuriating right now just thinking about it. So the guy sits there and never acknowledges the fact that he is in the wrong, or learns the lesson, or changes the lane, or figures out somehow to allow you around. And this happens all the time.
And speaking of horns, we are like a flock of birds when it comes to horns. We're just I had a guy try to cut me off today on the interstate. Excuse me, on my way here. And I don't mean cut me off like he just got in front of me. I mean, he blew past me and probably could have sheared his bumper off against my car. And I honked my horn. He almost got in an accident with me because he heard the horn, so he slammed on the brakes.
Right.
Because that's what you do. Because it was aliens landing. He was so caught off guard by me honking the horn.
Yeah, Vermonters do not know how to handle horns, and so they act inappropriately.
Yeah.
Like, I've had, so again, going back to the total jerk-off who ends up in the middle of an intersection, and they will go like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. There's a whole other lane for you to go into. Go into the right. Go up the shoulder. I don't care. Get the hell out of my way. What are you doing? Now, the worst part about this is I've lived in Vermont now for 15 years, so I've picked up on some of their bad habits. Yes. So there are times where it's more irritating than others. So there are times when I actually sit there without honking my horn, and then there are times when I lay it on, like a New Yorker, going, get the hell out of my way. And but the fear in their eyes when you honk a horn in Vermont, they don't know what to do.
Yeah, they if you honk your horn, you might as well be getting out of the car and walking back at them with a knife. That's where the look I get is he honked his horn. That's the next step. He's going to kill me.
Yeah. Well, Steve, what is your biggest pet peeve on driving?
The women that drive the big SUVs and they don't know how to pull in or back out of a space.
So, in other words, Steve...
City market.
So Steve is in the same mindset as Rob this week on the Rob and Joe show, because Rob said that actually his girlfriend is the worst driver.
I feel like that I'm a better driver than my girlfriend, but as you know, a couple years ago, I borrowed her car, mine, I forget, was in the shop or something, and I took a turn wrong, and it's a bigger car than I'm used to, and the tire hit the curb.
Oh, I remember this.
And it flattened. It put this, like, I don't know, just sort of mark on the tire, which it ruined the tire essentially. And remember, I had to buy 2 new tires.
Yes, you had to buy 2 tires for it to be balanced.
And I thought I should have to buy 1, and that was a big sort of thing.
Cost you a bunch of money.
Yeah. But the real problem with that is now I can never bitch about her driving, because she always has that. Well, you took my car and wrecked it. So she needs to wreck my car, so then I can bring up that she's a bad driver.
Since you've been together, she's never been in a fender bender. She's never been in anything.
No.
Well,
but she drives faster than I do. She's more aggressive. But I can't say anything because she's got the trump card. Well, you took my car and you wrecked it. And I have no comeback, and it pisses me off.
Well, here's what's interesting is that no guys that I know of, other than me, will admit they're bad drivers.
Both of the guys are correct. First off, I would never admit that I'm a worse driver. But secondly, I agree with Rob. I am a better driver than my wife. Yeah. Now, I'm going to say this quietly because she's upstairs, and I'm afraid she will come down and yell at me. But she is an extremely... Okay, in Vermont, she's very calm, she's very relaxed, she's a very good driver. She tends to be. You put her into a city situation, she is a duck and weaving type of driver. Yes. She will find the fastest path, she will get you there, and I am holding on by the suicide handle.
Suicide handle.
Yeah, I'm holding on to that and just praying for dear life. Whereas I am more calculating. I figure out where I'm going to go. I move into the lanes I need to go. I stay in the lane that I'm in. I don't do a lot of moving around unless I absolutely need to. Now, the one thing that I do have is I have a bit of a lead foot, so I can't drive very fast. So I tend to stay in the left lane because that way I have less movement, moving from in and out of the lanes. But outside of that, I do have in my history a wreck. She does not. So therefore, whenever I bring up the conversation about she is a worse driver than I am, she always reminds me, and so therefore I'm screwed. I'm totally screwed in the conversation.
She's
see?
awake.
And nobody can hear it because of the compression, but yes, of course, the wife yells from upstairs that I'm totally full.
I have an ex in my past who went down to the great city of Albany, which if you've ever driven in Albany, don't. And really is just the most angry, depressing people I've ever met in my life. I lived in Boston for 3 years driving there. I'd never seen driving like this, and so I was driving and for a city, get me in a city environment. It's a chess game. I'm thinking 6 car lengths ahead, and also making sure the person behind me, to the right of me, cannot cut me off like people in New York are known to do.
Yeah.
And so it was a quick snap, and it's probably part of the reason why we're not together anymore. She's like, you need to learn how to drive. I'm like, and whose license is suspended? And
wow.
And so I said it and just looked back, and I was like, just focus on the road, because I know the fact that there's a weapon in the car, and she can, in fact, at any point, hit me with it.
My wife has absolutely no clue what a mirror is. She doesn't use the mirrors, and only the guys can hear this now. Now she's yelling from upstairs. But she has no clue what a mirror is.
She's saying it's just not true.
She has no ability to... her eye movements, it's plainly obvious. She does not look at the rear view and then look at the side mirror and then look forward, and she does not take a look at all those... She doesn't use her peripherals. I am a guy, And just like in 40-year-old version, you learn to use your peripherals. And so I know when I'm in the driver's seat, I'm using my peripherals. I'm looking at the rear view. I'm looking at the side mirror. I'm looking in front of me. I'm paying attention to the road.
You know, if you keep this up, you're going to be sleeping on the couch.
Whatever. Whatever. Anyway, love ya. Guess who's doing the dishes later? Not me. Anyway, all that being said, she is. Let's just sum it up. She's worse than I am. Let's move on because she'll come down with a wrench and try to hit me. You were speaking about Wendy earlier. I think before the show, talking about some things, and I think this is a perfectly good clip because, you know, when you're talking about people irritating the hell out of you, occasionally. Okay, never mind. Rarely, people will do acts of kindness.
Here's a question. Have you ever had someone do a random act of kindness for you? Where you're just like, oh my God, who are you? And they're like, don't worry, forget it.
I'm sure, but not that I can remember.
You're really good at this storytelling.
I'm sorry, I got nothing. I can tell you honestly, it was pouring down rain, and I had a flat tire on Putty Hill Avenue, and I am drenched changing my own tire out in the middle of the road while people are driving by me. So that would have been a perfect time for somebody to stop and help a young lady in high-heeled boots and a cute jacket, drenched with mascara running down her face.
No one stopped.
Not a one. Not a one. I changed I literally put my own donut on. I was super soaked. I was out there for at least 20, 25 minutes.
I would have totally stopped.
Nobody stopped. People were driving by me. I'm like super close to the road. Super scared to even be changing the tire because it's in the front driver's side.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's when I'm like, hey, where are these random acts of kindness?
You cannot tell at all that these two are from Baltimore.
No, not at all.
It does not come through.
Bitter Wendy is bitter.
It's funny how, when listening to that story, now I was going to ask you about random acts of kindness, but they really do happen, I think, far and few between. But Wendy's focus during telling that story was her high heels and her jacket.
Yes.
So I have this image in my head of Wendy being on the side of the road, and at least for the first 20 minutes, like showing a little leg, hoping that some 20-something, nearly 30-something, will stop and help her change her tire on the side of the road. As, of course, she said it was raining. She's obviously in a white blouse. So, you know, everything is out there. And that's the imagery that comes into my head.
This is a trend with Wendy's stories. I think I can think off the top of my head of 4 stories she's told. I don't know what she said and what she did, but I know exactly what she was wearing in it.
Exactly. I have noticed the same thing. There's a lot of stories, and this week on Facebook, or maybe it was on Twitter, she made some comment about how much she loves high heels. Well, duh. I like high heels too. As far as I'm concerned, high heel boots and short skirts should be mandatory for most women. Of course, the wife tries to insert herself again. Get on that, will you, babe? Okay. That being said, you're right. It does come up a lot in the stories that that Wendy tells. Okay, I have consumed the full bottle of beer, and apparently it's already affected me. Wendy does tell a number of stories where it does come up about what she's wearing in comparison to what's actually going on.
I'm starting to wonder if she actually has had nice things or acts of kindness happen to her, but she wasn't wearing the right outfit, so she doesn't remember what it was.
Maybe that's true. Maybe it wasn't about the jacket and the high heels. Maybe it was the fact that she was in jeans.
Yes.
Or some, raggedy top that some guy was like, oh no, I'm not going near there.
Just a pair of sweatpants that say princess on the back. Things like that. I don't know if she'd wear that, but
maybe she was wearing high heels, a really nice jacket, and yoga pants.
Yes.
Yeah, not really a great look on the side of the road when it's raining.
So it's trauma. She's blocked it out of her memory. I wore that, and I got help.
Maybe. I don't know. Steve, have you ever really done an act of kindness?
I've done, buying things for other people, but,
Not really going out of your way.
I'm no, I'm not gonna change the tire. I won't do that for myself. I'll call Triple A.
I would point out there was one time I was in a wedding party. I was in my dress blues, and it was me and the bridesmaid and the groomsman in my car, and I got a flat tire in the middle of nowhere, Maine. I'm literally 20. There's probably moose that speak English that are closer to me than anyone else in either Canada or America that can come help me. And I'm walking, trying to change a tire and not get dirty. You've had the uniform, you understand.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm doing anything I can not to touch stuff, and I'm watching cars fly by. I'm just like, sucks to be him. And meanwhile, I've got two women in a dress and two guys in a tux. And me trying to change a tire without getting gloves or anything dirty. And finally, I heard the rumble of a diesel engine, and it was a trucker. And I'm like, he's going to stop. And he stopped, thank God. Because I was going to throw myself in front of the next car. I don't care if I died, someone would have at least changed the damn tire.
I'll tell you a story about dress blues that you'll appreciate. So, when I got married the first time, I went into the bathroom to make sure that everything was correct.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm in my dress blues because I had just left basic training. I'm on my 2 weeks between basic training and my new tour of duty.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm standing in the mirror, and my name tag is not in the right place.
Mm-hmm.
So I move it. Well, dumbass, I'm looking in a mirror. Of course it's not in the right place. So I walk out, and my father-in-law at the time is a commander in the Coast Guard.
Mm-hmm.
And immediately gives me crap because I have shifted my name tag to the wrong side of my uniform because of the fact that obviously I was looking in the mirror and I'm too flustered to think straight.
Been there, done that.
Yeah.
Not with a name tag, but you have those moments where they're gotta look good.
Yeah, exactly. And now I'm getting the bad looks from the wife. Hi, honey. By the way, I love you. Yeah, we're going to wrap this up, but we got one more topic to talk about. We're going to talk about, because I've got a guy here who is in the Army. We're talking about women who are hot in their high-heel boots, short skirts, nice jackets. But what about a little ink?
I went to a comedy show, Mickey Coachella from It's Mickey, headlining. Guy shows up, complete Mickey face tattoo on his calf. It's big as a softball.
Hey, there is somebody walking around with an irresponsible radio tattoo.
Yeah, Joe's old 98 Rock show.
That's right. It's as big. It's literally like a foot long. I'm not kidding.
And that was
like
a bad
8
life
inches.
decision.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I'm not a tattoo guy, and I don't have anything against tattoos, but like we saw a tattoo the other night that this girl had, and it was nice. But I've never been turned on by a tattoo. Now I'll be turned on that a girl's willing to get a tattoo. Like I have a friend, she has 2 tattoos on her upper thigh, and I don't even remember what they are, but it's sexy to me that she put them there.
Yeah, so I think you know this about me. I will only date girls with tattoos. So if you don't have a tattoo, you probably aren't the type of girl that I want to be with. So the first thing I want to know is, do you smoke or have you smoked? The answer is yes. And then, do you have tattoos? If
You want no cigarettes, you mean?
No. I want them to smoke.
Because you think they're that kind of girl?
The kind of girls
I
that
don't
smoke
want a girl to smoke.
and have tattoos. Well, it's great if they're ex-smokers. That's the best.
Yeah, because you don't want them to smell, but you want them to have the type of addiction that requires them having something in their mouth.
Exactly.
So you absolutely need that, and a tattoo is plainly obvious that any woman with a tattoo screams out, "I will do you for free." I don't know.
It's like you've been to Franklin County.
God. Look, I like tattoos. I enjoy them. I don't mind if women have them. I think that there comes a point for some people where the tattoo is a bit extreme. I agree, and if you listen to the Rob and Joe show this week, Joe was actually telling a story about his most recent girlfriend, who apparently had a tattoo that she liked that was on the wall, which had no meaning for her whatsoever. I'm not that type of person. For me, I think ink should have a story. And so I have ink on my shoulder, and if anybody asked me, I could go through the story of why I have this ink. I can tell you why I picked the person to do it, who the person was. I can tell you why I picked the image, all of that stuff, why it's relevant.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people out there who just put ink on them for no reason whatsoever outside of colorizing their whitish skin.
Yeah, I went to a tattoo parlor because I'm the only guy in the army. This is a true story. Who doesn't have a tattoo? Working on that, and I walked in and I flipped through the things. I was like, I want that one, and the tattoo artist was like, why? I'm like, it looks pretty, and he's like, well, why else do you like it? And I was like,
Dude, you don't want ink if that's your line.
Yeah, so he's like, go to Google and go look at things that you like, and then get that tattooed on your body for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And because he made me do that, now the tattoo's gone from 300 to probably 1,000. So good play on his part. A smart man.
Well, it depends on how big you want.
Just a full sleeve.
Oh my God, really? Is that what you want?
That's what I want. I'm gonna do it in sections. It's not gonna be a full sleeve where you're looking at like the Battle of Midway from my right shoulder down to my wrist.
Yeah.
But it's involved. There's no color involved. But still, it's just you're talking about he's got to draw it, time, especially the time because it's not.
Oh no, you're definitely not going to sit down for a full sleeve in one sitting. But still, what is the image that is coming to mind that you want a full sleeve of?
It's a set of musical notes that start right here on the shoulder.
Yeah.
And it winds down the arm. And it's the music is because I'm old like my father musically. It's from Comfortably Numb.
Okay.
By Pink Floyd because my dad loved Pink Floyd. And so it's just that, but the problem is it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 lines that wrap around.
Yeah.
And it really it's not regular notes. The notes are kind of stylized and look cool as far as you ask me. And it's going to be, I know it's going to cost. It's going to be the time and the sittings to do it.
Absolutely. Have you picked out the artist to do it?
Yes.
And what did you go through in order to pick that artist?
Essentially, I went to high school with one of the guys who works up in my neck of the woods.
Yeah.
And I watched him turn down a friend of mine who ended up dumping about $2,900 into her back in tattoos because, quote unquote, he didn't like the image.
Wow.
So I'm like, well, I'm not going there because I've seen work that he's done before, and it's kind of like, oh, I don't like it, scribble it off. And this guy, I watched him sit down with an ex and go through 12 hours working on her back, coloring, tracing, and then doing the whites on. And, he sits down, he talks to you because you are having a small needle jabbed into your skin repeatedly, and it hurts. And going over ribs and the spine, and he lets you pick the music you want. And he's funny. He makes it really hard to get the tattoo because you're trying not to laugh the entire time.
I picked mine based on the fact that she was well-renowned at the time. She was publicized in a number of tattoo publications. She was teaching an independent tattoo course at the University of California, Santa Barbara. So this was not somebody to mess with. And when I went in and said, look, this is what I have pictured in my mind, because I did not flip through a book. I said, look, this is what I'm thinking about.
Mm-hmm.
She said, all right, give me a week. Give me a week, come back, and let's talk about it. And I gave her a week, and I came back, and she drew the picture that I wanted. It was exactly what I had pictured in my head. But what dotted the I and slashed the T was this, is that she said, look, there's a sword in this picture, and it's an English longsword.
Mm-hmm.
I usually use ink from Texas, but because of the fact of where this image is coming from and why you're doing it, I'm actually going to use this ink from this English-based company. Wow. So she took it to that level, that step where it was like, wow, okay, not only did she think it through, really listen to what I had to say, but she made it so that anytime I look at it, it has true meaning. And that's, and that was the thing. It took me 5 years to really think it through and come up with somebody and then figure out what the image was that I wanted. And I'm really glad that I did. I would really like to get another one, but I have no idea if there's anything meaningful enough outside of my children. I'm not the type of person to like start writing names like, here's all my children, here's my family tree on my back. To do that kind of stuff.
Well, there's the tried and true way of doing it where you take the Chinese symbols and you spin a wheel and see what word you can say.
Yeah. I will get the one for S-faced. Steve, I'm sure I'm going to ask a question that I know the answer to. You have
zero
ink.
Right, zero ink.
Yeah.
And no chance of it.
Because you want to get into heaven.
No, it's not that at all.
Because it's against your religion.
It's not that at all. No, it's my tastes are too fickle. you know, and I would get something, and 2 months later I would regret having.
You mean you wouldn't get the Apple logo like on your ass cheek or something like that?
Well, you know.
Or at this point, because of all the stuff they're giving you, maybe a Samsung logo.
Samsung logo.
Yeah.
I just don't stick with things long enough, you know, like any taste.
All right, so let's go somewhere simpler for you.
Okay.
Chicks got them.
Yep.
You're okay with it?
It depends where and what it is.
What do you mean where?
I mean, I don't really like looking at them, you know, in during intercourse.
So she.
Well, he skipped ahead.
Hold on. Whoa. Yeah, we jumped the whole thing.
I don't like tattoos when I'm on third base.
So let's just speculate, and I'm going to have to edit this out later, but I need to ask the question.
Okay.
So she has a tramp stamp. You're never doing it doggy style.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is taking the whole feeling about tattoos to a whole new level.
I find it a turnoff. I just never found it attractive.
Really? See, I'm kind of with Joe. I think there's a certain portion of my brain, and maybe it's just my typical male psyche that says, if she put ink on her body, she's willing me to put a lot of other things on there.
You know, I have had.
Just saying.
I definitely see some, you know, parallels in that. You know, like you know, girls that have them that have had better experiences with, but for some reason I just can't. It's something about it that I just don't like. I just don't like it, and I
Eric,
can't really
I gotta say
explain
this.
it.
Every time Steve comes over and he talks to me about girls, he talks to me in such a way that you would think he's Todd Moore. Looks, money, everything, right? So he's got girls out the door, around the corner, down the block, right? So he has these girl problems all the time. Look at this guy. How is that possible that he has actually got this problem that he... Right now, there's a certain portion of my brain that's going, I'm not sure that he can be this choosy.
Well, as a single person myself, the hope I give myself, you know, before going crazy is, what was that guy, the actor, the British actor? He married Katy Perry.
I have no idea.
Oh, I know you're talking about.
Yeah, that everyone knows who that guy is.
Yeah, sure, him.
Him.
Yeah.
If he could marry Katy Perry, I got a shot with anyone. That's the lie I tell myself.
Well, okay. We'll go with that. I have no idea who you're talking about, but I'm sure he's as ugly as sin.
No, I'm astonished sometimes myself. What happened?
That a girl even shows up?
Exactly. Yeah.
I was
especially after the amount of weight I put on recently.
What are you doing these days to pick up girls? Are you on any online services?
No,
Where are you picking them up?
I just meet them. You know, I'm out and about doing so many things that I come across a lot of. You know,
and so they like a guy with a large focal lens.
It must be. I know,
All right.
You know, a lot of conversations do start about, you know, like they see my cameras and they ask questions and we start talking. And
so it's like a puppy.
Well,
for nerds.
Well, there is my dogs too. My dogs are another way that I meet a lot of women.
Eric, how are you picking up girls these days?
I pretty much, after I got out of, you know, active duty, I was like, I'm gonna go outside a lot.
Okay.
So I'm a photographer. I get out in places where we're like, oh, what's he doing? Like, again, it's my puppy, my camera.
So are you on Church Street, like taking pictures of people?
Church Street, St. Albans. I pretty much try to get outside as much as possible. I play sports. I'm lucky enough that the building I work in has 400 people in it, and a lot of them are clerks and things like that. So a lot of them are really attractive, younger, single women. And it just, I speak with them, and what maddens me is when I was 310 pounds and not. And without a job, I had a fiance. Now that I'm relatively in shape and have my life together,
right?
Nothing.
Amazing how that works.
Which means it's me.
You know, like in some places, you have that type of equipment, or you know, camera equipment or whatever. It's like waving around.
I have that equipment.
It's like waving around money, you know. So.
Yes. Can I be on camera?
Look at my large telefocus. Or whatever. I don't know. I don't know anything about these things. I don't have to worry about that. I'm married. I'm stuck. I've got what I got.
She's not here.
She's gonna sneak up behind me with a frying pan.
She's a woman. She can hear you anyway.
Oh, believe me, I'm well aware. All right. So, Eric, thank you for coming down.
Oh, my pleasure.
And being on the show. It's been great meeting you. Steve, as always, thanks for being here.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
His participation is so key.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It was powered down during most of the show. You know, I pulled an Oscar and just.
Yeah. Oscar Audio Vault powered down.
Yeah. Gone.
But Eric, it's been it's been really great to meet you, and it's great to meet another fan. And if you will, I'd love to have you in the local rotation of guys who come on the show.
Oh yeah, as long as it's not the first or second weekend of every month, I'm pretty much guaranteed I'll be free and would, love to come down.
Well, fantastic. That'd be great because I'd love to have you on the show some more. And next week, I'm not sure who I have on the show next week, but coming up, a couple of things just so people know. I'm going to be taking off for a trip to Chicago for 7 days, so I will be there enjoying the Chicagoland area, my hometown, for a little while. And when I get back, it's going to be hopefully some good news that I can share with everybody. We'll see how it goes. But please continue to follow O'MearaCast on Facebook at facebook.com/O'MearaCast. Go to Twitter. Eric has been enjoying it at O'MearaCast.
You're my only friends on Twitter. Only people I follow.
It's a great, fun conversation. I love the back and forth that happens, and the trick is always, how can I make it funny in 140 characters?
I hate it.
You know,
it's used, lots of R's.
Yeah, it's a lot of shorthand that you're like trying to figure it out. STFUs.
Yes.
Or whatever. So follow us on Twitter, and we'd love you to participate. We thank you for your support, and please encourage other TMS fans to listen to O'MearaCast, because this is our opportunity to geek out. This is our opportunity to talk together, and I would like to have more fans of more broadcasting. Whether you're a fan of TMOS, Robin Joe Show, Tech 4-in-1, the upcoming Tony Perkins Show, or It's Mickey, I want you on the show.
Cookies.
Oh, on that particular note, Rob mentioned not too long ago on Facebook there was some back and forth between him and Katie Von Herman that they were doing some preliminary work.
I think they're recording tomorrow.
Oh, cake and cookie. I have no idea what this is about. I'm assuming it's food, but I have no idea. So I'm looking forward to it, and I hope that it's a great show. And please, if you want to geek out with me on O'MearaCast, send me a note, and let's connect so that you can come on the show and we can have a great conversation. Again, Eric, thank you.
Thank you.
And we're out of here. Thank you for listening to O'MearaCast. Bye-bye, everybody.
The preceding program was brought to you by More Broadcasting. For more information, visit us at morebroadcasting.com.